You'd think being a billionaire would make life easier. It doesn't. It just makes everything noisier. People don't talk to you anymore, they pitch. They don't love you, they want something. At some point, I stopped recognizing the difference between charm and calculation. I wasn't always like this. There was a time I believed in fairy tales. That was before I built an empire and watched people turn into puppets around me. I'm Ethan Caldwell, CEO of a luxury real estate firm, 39 years old, and yes, still single. By choice. That's what I used to tell myself. But lately, I wasn't so sure. It was a Thursday when the idea hit me. No Tinder, no dating apps, no blind dates arranged by rich friends with plastic-faced socialites. I wanted something curated, controlled. So I called Lauren, my assistant. Trustworthy, intelligent, and someone who could sniff out a gold digger from a mile away. I need you to arrange something for me, I said, staring out the floor-to-ceiling window of my penthouse. A business dinner, she asked, already pulling up her calendar. No. A personal one. 10 women. Dinner. Here. There was a long silence. You're serious? I am. No press, no buzz. Just 10 women you think are smart, beautiful, and not just after the Caldwell fortune. She didn't ask why. She's too professional for that. I'll need 2 weeks, she said finally. You've got one. The next few days were oddly exciting. A distraction from the constant meetings, boardroom wars, and polite backstabbings. I started to imagine what kind of women would show up. Lawyers. Artists. Would they be impressed, intimidated, or bored? Lauren sent me a file 2 days before the dinner. Profiles. Pictures. Summaries. I didn't open it. I didn't want to prejudge anyone. The idea was to meet them blind, like some reverse version of The Bachelor, with a touch of high society class. The night came. My dining room was candlelit, the table set with precision by a private chef and staff trained in Michelin star excellence. I wore a charcoal suit, tailored, but not flashy. Just enough to say, I care. One by one, they entered. Woman number 1 was a corporate lawyer. Tall, elegant, confident. She talked about mergers and acquisition deals like most people talk about brunch. Woman number 2 was a novelist. Funny, dark eyes, dry wit. But every time I looked at her, I could see her analyzing me for her next book. Woman number 3 was a model/humanitarian. I couldn't decide if I was talking to someone profound or someone well-rehearsed. They came. They smiled. They laughed. Some flirted openly, some played coy. By the time woman number 9 left her seat, I was exhausted. Charming, yes. Intelligent, sure. But something was missing. Connection. That invisible thread I hadn't felt in years. And then, she walked in. Number 10. The room seemed to go still. She was dressed simply, black dress, no diamonds, just soft waves of chestnut hair pulled loosely back. Her eyes met mine, and something in my chest tightened. It was like a dream punching you in the gut. Because I knew her. Emma. I said, stunned. She blinked, then gave the smallest smile. Hey, Ethan. Emma Brooks. High school. Back when I was awkward, braces clad, wearing clothes a size too big and afraid to talk to girls. She was the girl I watched from afar in chemistry class, the one who smiled at everyone like the world was worth smiling at. We hadn't spoken in 20 years. What are you doing here? I asked, standing without realizing it. I got a call from someone named Lauren. She said a friend was looking for a dinner date. Said it'd be interesting. She didn't mention it was you. You're kidding. She raised an eyebrow. Would I show up like this if I knew I'd be facing Ethan Caldwell, real estate tycoon? We both laughed. It broke the tension like a pin in a balloon. I gestured to the chair beside me, the only one left empty. Well, fate apparently saved the best for last. She sat down, still smiling. Let's see if you've improved your conversation skills since sophomore year. Dinner with Emma wasn't like the others. There were no rehearsed lines, no subtle bragging, no resumes disguised as casual conversation. We talked about high school, Mr. Henley's pop quizzes, prom night disasters, cafeteria pizza. We talked about our parents, hers still living in the same house in the suburbs, mine long divorced and retired to different coasts. We even talked about the crush I had on her. You knew, didn't you? I asked after dessert. I had a suspicion, she said with a smile, sipping her wine. You used to drop your books every time I walked by. I groaned. Some moves are timeless, apparently. She laughed. You've changed a lot, Ethan. But in some ways, not at all. That hit me. Because she was right. Beneath the money, the suits, the business empire, I was still that kid in room 214, staring at her like she was a secret only I could admire. We talked late. Too late. The other women had long gone, and the staff began clearing plates with careful glances toward the clock. I walked her to the elevator, not wanting the night to end. I'll be honest, I said. This wasn't how I expected tonight to go. She looked up at me. Me neither. Can I see you again? There was a pause. Are you asking Emma Brooks, your old classmate, or woman number 10 on a curated dating list? I blinked. Emma. I'm asking Emma. The elevator chimed. She stepped inside, then turned. Then yes, Ethan. I think I'd like that. The doors closed. And for the first time in years, I felt something real. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was anxious or worried, no, it was something else. Something electric. After all the curated profiles, elegant dresses, and polite conversations, it was the girl from room 214 who stayed in my mind. Emma Brooks. The girl I used to dream about when I still believed in love without conditions. The next morning, I canceled 3 meetings and stared at my phone for a good hour before sending her a simple message. Me. Still thinking about our dinner. You free this weekend? She replied almost instantly. Emma. How spontaneous of you, Mr. Caldwell. Saturday. 2 p.m. Don't wear a tie. She chose the spot, some small cafe in Brooklyn with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu. The kind of place I never go to anymore. The kind of place that made me feel human again. She was already there when I arrived. No makeup, hair in a loose braid, wearing jeans and a faded sweatshirt with a hole in the sleeve. And somehow, she looked even more beautiful than she did at the dinner. Look who followed directions, she said, nodding at my open collar. Look who's on time, I shot back. We laughed, and just like that, it was like no time had passed. We sat outside. It was breezy, and the clatter of dishes and the sound of street musicians made everything feel oddly perfect. We didn't talk about money or jobs, not at first. She asked about my dog from high school, Bruno. I told her he'd lived a good life chasing squirrels and barking at my dad's lawnmower. I asked about her parents. She said they were still in the same house on Maple Drive. Still using the same wallpaper from the 90s. Then I asked what she did for a living. She hesitated. Just for a second. I'm a school counselor. At Roosevelt Elementary. I blinked. That's amazing. She smiled. It's not glamorous. But I love it. There was something in her voice. Not pride, exactly. But peace. Do you ever wonder, she said, what you'd be doing if you hadn't made it big? All the time. Really? Of course, I said. Sometimes I think I'd be a teacher. History, maybe. Or writing. I used to love writing before I turned everything into business pitches. She tilted her head, studying me. You're more romantic than I remember. I'm more tired than I used to be, I said with a smile. We both went quiet for a moment. The kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. The kind that feels like safety. After coffee, we walked through the park. She told me about her students, funny stories, heartbreaks, tiny victories. I realized she was the kind of person who saw people. Really saw them. I told her about work, how it never stops, How I sometimes wonder if the empire I built is a gilded cage. She didn't pity me. She didn't try to impress me. She just listened. When we said goodbye, I asked to walk her home. She refused gently, with a teasing smile. Next time, she said. And I realized I wanted there to be a next time more than I'd wanted anything in a very long time. Over the next 2 weeks, we saw each other 3 more times. Dinner at a quiet Thai restaurant. A bookstore visit where she made me buy a poetry book. A rooftop picnic at my place, where we watched the city lights and she told me about her failed engagement 5 years ago. He was good on paper, she said. Nice guy. But we weren't anchored. You know. I nodded. I knew exactly what she meant. She asked why I'd stayed single for so long. I hesitated. Honestly. I didn't trust people. Everyone wanted something. And I got used to keeping things at arm's length. Even when I didn't want to. She looked at me in that way she did, like she was searching beneath the surface. And now, she asked. I smiled. Now I want to let someone in. But only the right one. It was the 4th date when something shifted. We were at her place. A cozy walk-up filled with books and plants and warmth. She made dinner, real dinner. Pasta, wine, homemade bread. She reached for something in a cabinet, and a stack of papers fell. I bent down to help, and I noticed the letterhead on one of them, Roosevelt Elementary, Counseling Department. The first line caught my eye. Student disciplinary recommendation, case review for temporary suspension. I didn't mean to read more, but my eyes scanned the page instinctively. It wasn't just a disciplinary issue. It was a report on abuse. A child. One of her students. Emma noticed my silence and turned. Her face changed. You weren't supposed to see that. I wasn't snooping, I said quickly. It just fell. She nodded, then took a deep breath and sat on the couch. I've been working with a girl named Layla. She's in 3rd grade. She's been through a lot. I've been trying to help her, but the system, her voice cracked. It's broken, Ethan. And sometimes it feels like no matter what I do, it's not enough. I sat beside her, not saying anything. I just listened. She looked at me, eyes filled with a mix of shame and frustration. This is my life, Ethan. It's messy. It's hard. It doesn't come with private chefs or penthouse views. I don't want you to think I'm weak or... I took her hand. Emma. I don't think that. I think you're the strongest person I've ever met. She looked at me, really looked at me. And then she nodded, just once. Okay, she whispered. Then let's see where this goes. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that one sentence, was the turning point. The moment when Emma Brooks stopped being the girl I once knew, and became someone I couldn't imagine my life without. But fate has a way of testing you. And it came, like most things do these days, in an email. It was 2 days later. I was in my office, clearing out messages between meetings, when one caught my eye. Subject, urgent, legal risk, Emma Brooks. I opened it, confused. It was from my company's legal department. Attached was a background check I didn't authorize. There, in bold letters, was a section that made my stomach drop. Employee involved in legal dispute with Board of Education, accusations of interference with Child Protective Services process. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. This couldn't be real. But the worst part wasn't the report. The worst part was the name at the bottom of the authorization form. Lauren Adams. My assistant. Betrayal doesn't always arrive with a gun or a lie. Sometimes, it comes in a neatly formatted PDF, buried in your inbox. And sometimes, it's signed by the person you trust the most. I stared at the screen like it had punched me in the chest. Emma Brooks, legal risk. Authorization, Lauren Adams. I couldn't believe it. My assistant, my right hand, the woman who had built the inner scaffolding of my life, had run a background check on Emma. And worse, she hadn't told me. Part of me wanted to call Emma immediately, to warn her, to apologize, to somehow erase what I'd just seen. But another part, sharper, colder, wanted answers first. I buzzed Lauren. Can you step into my office? Now. Lauren walked in with her usual calm confidence, tablet in hand, tailored blazer sharp as her wit. She didn't sit, she knew this wasn't a friendly chat. I turned the screen toward her. Care to explain this? Her eyes flicked to the email, then back to me. She didn't flinch. I ran a precautionary check on all 10 women you asked me to invite to that dinner. Just like I've done before for any personal arrangements involving your image or safety. Except I didn't ask for this one, I said. My voice was quiet, but the edge was unmistakable. I told you I wanted to meet them blind. You said you didn't want gold diggers, she replied evenly. You said you wanted women with substance, not motives. I did my job. You didn't tell me, I said, standing. And Emma? Why send me this now, 2 weeks later? We've been seeing each other. She hesitated. I was protecting you, she said finally. Ethan, look, I've watched you get manipulated before. Your last relationship nearly cost you a company deal. You needed to know before this went further. I walked around the desk, forcing her to look me in the eye. Is that all it was, Lauren? Just business? Or was this personal? Something flickered in her eyes. Something she didn't want me to see. She's in legal trouble, Ethan. That's not personal. That's a red flag. She's helping a child, I snapped. A third grader. She told me herself. She's not the problem, she's fighting it. Maybe. Or maybe she's reckless. Maybe she crosses lines and drags you with her. People like her, they carry storms in their pockets. I stared at her, stunned by the bitterness in her voice. People like her. I repeated. You mean people who weren't handpicked to stand beside me? Lauren said nothing. And suddenly, the room felt smaller. You crossed a line, I said. That's not your call to make. Not this time. I didn't wait for her response. I turned, picked up my phone, and walked out. It was raining by the time I reached Emma's apartment. I stood outside her building, my clothes damp, heart racing. When she opened the door, she blinked in surprise. Ethan. What, are you okay? I need to talk, I said. She led me inside, offered me a towel, made tea, always calm, always grounded. I need you to tell me something, I said as we sat at her small kitchen table. I got an email. About you. From my legal department. Her shoulders stiffened. She didn't look away. I figured it would come eventually, she said quietly. I waited. There's a girl, she said. Layla. 8 years old. Bright. Sweet. Scared of her own shadow. She stared into her tea like it held the memory. She started showing signs. Bruises. Withdrawn. Wouldn't eat lunch unless someone else did first. I did what I'm supposed to do, filed reports, alerted child services. Her voice dropped. But the system dragged its feet. One day she came to school with a split lip and a black eye. She told me her mom's boyfriend did it. CPS said they were monitoring the home situation. I lost it, Ethan. I went to a friend in the media. Off the record. Just pressure, not exposure. But it still leaked. I swallowed hard. They suspended me for interfering with an open investigation. Now I'm on administrative leave while they review my conduct. She finally looked at me. Her eyes weren't begging for sympathy. They were daring me to look away. I didn't do it to be a hero, she said. I did it because that little girl might not survive another month without help. I nodded slowly. My throat felt tight. You should have told me, I said gently. I wanted to. But it's complicated. I didn't want you to see me as someone with baggage. I don't, I said. I see someone who gives a damn. She exhaled. Relief, maybe. Or exhaustion. I can't promise this won't get messy, she added. I might lose my job. My reputation. But I won't apologize for fighting for her. I reached across the table and took her hand. You shouldn't, I said. And you're not alone. The next morning, I showed up at the office and handed Lauren a sealed envelope. "I'm giving you a paid month off," I said. "We need space. And I need to think about the kind of trust we have." She accepted it without a word. She wasn't the type to cry or make scenes. But the disappointment in her eyes was real. I knew it would hurt her. I knew this was complicated. But I also knew I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut, the feeling that something honest was finally growing in my life. 2 days later, Emma called me. Her voice was tight. "There's something I didn't tell you." "What is it?" "My ex-fiancé, he's part of the school board now. And he's the one pushing for my termination." I froze. "Wait, he's involved in this?" "He's never forgiven me for ending things." Said I humiliated him. Now he's framing it as a conflict of interest. That I'm emotionally unstable, too close to the student, too erratic. And this never came up before. I didn't think it mattered. I thought it was just coincidence. But it's not. I felt a surge of anger. Not at her, at the system. At how easily good people could be crushed by petty power plays. "I can help," I said. "No," she said instantly. "I don't want you to fix this. I just needed you to know." I paused. "You trust me, right?" "With everything," she said softly. "Then let me help. Not as some billionaire with connections. As the guy who never forgot how you made him feel in 10th grade. She laughed, but I could hear the emotion behind it. "I've missed that guy," she whispered. "He's still here. And he's not going anywhere." That night, I didn't sleep again. Not from stress this time. But purpose. I didn't know how it would all turn out. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't letting her fight this battle alone. They say money can't buy happiness. But what they don't tell you is that money can buy access, and sometimes, that access is all you need to find the truth. Emma never asked me to get involved. In fact, she warned me not to. But I've built my life around instincts, and mine were screaming that this wasn't just a messy breakup or a bureaucratic witch hunt. Something darker was happening here. And I was done playing nice. I started with the obvious, the school board. Within 24 hours, I had names, titles, and financial connections mapped out in a discreet dossier on my desk. My legal advisor, whom I had chosen, unlike Lauren, quietly flagged a few red items. Conflict of interest. Emma's ex-fiancé, Kevin Mallory, had voted on her suspension, despite the board's own bylaws advising recusal in personal matters. Donations. Kevin had recently made a sizable anonymous donation to a charter school advocacy group, which just happened to be lobbying for downsizing Roosevelt Elementary. Partnerships. That same group had a behind-the-scenes handshake with one of my company's former rivals. Someone who'd never passed up a chance to profit off chaos. It was no longer about Emma alone. It was about a system being manipulated, and a woman I cared about getting crushed under it. I had leverage. Now, I needed a plan. The next evening, I invited Kevin Mallory to a private dinner. I didn't tell Emma. We met at a steakhouse on the Upper East Side, one of those glass and chrome temples of excess where the napkins probably cost more than a teacher's daily wage. He arrived late. Confident. Clean-shaven. Wearing a watch he clearly wanted me to notice. "Ethan Caldwell," he said, shaking my hand with a little too much pressure. "Didn't expect the invite. What's this about?" I gestured for him to sit. "Emma." That got his attention. He leaned back in the booth, smirking. "Ah." I wondered when the white knight would ride in. "I'm not here to rescue anyone," I said evenly. "I'm here to give you a choice." "Is that so?" he said, amused. "You know, she always had a thing for wounded birds. You, at least, come with a private jet." I didn't flinch. "You're orchestrating her suspension. You're leaking false narratives to the board. And if I find out you've been tampering with her professional record, I'll make it my business to ensure you never sit on another board again." His smile faded. "You think just because you've got a few billion in the bank, you can scare me off?" "No," I said. "I think because I earned those billions by building clean, legal, publicly scrutinized companies, you should be worried I've started asking questions." He stared at me, weighing his next move. I slid the dossier across the table. Consider this your warning shot, I said. Rescind your vote. Clear her name. And keep your personal grudges out of public institutions. He didn't open it. But he did leave 10 minutes later, jaw tight, the charm gone. The next morning, Emma called me. Something happened, she said, cautious. I just got a call from the school board secretary. They're reopening my case. Suddenly. No explanation. I hesitated. Ethan, did you do something? I paused. Then told her everything. She didn't interrupt. Not once. When I finished, there was a long silence. Finally, she said, thank you. I mean that. But please don't make a habit of fighting my battles for me. I'm not, I said. But I will fight beside you. That made her smile. I can live with that. The next few days were a blur. Media inquiries. Legal reviews. And then, a call from someone I hadn't expected, Lauren. Ethan, she said, her voice lower than usual. I think you should see something. I met her at my office that night. She slid a USB drive across my desk. After you benched me, I started looking deeper into the legal flag that triggered Emma's report, she said. And guess what? It didn't originate from the school's legal team. It was planted. My stomach dropped. Planted. She nodded. Kevin Mallory used a private consulting firm. They forged a complaint and funneled it through an intermediary, so it looked like a parent had flagged her behavior. It's dirty. And probably illegal. I took a breath, jaw clenched. Why are you telling me this now? She looked genuinely regretful. Because I crossed a line, she said quietly. And because I'm starting to think you might finally be happy. For real. The following week, the board issued a formal statement. After review of procedural missteps and external influence, Emma Brooks is hereby reinstated as school counselor at Roosevelt Elementary, with full restoration of pay and benefits. The news made a small ripple in the community. No one knew the full story. They didn't have to. But Emma did. She showed up at my place that night with a bottle of wine and tears in her eyes. I thought I was done, she whispered. I thought I'd never walk through those doors again. You're not done, I said, holding her. You're just getting started. And for a while, things were calm. We spent weekends reading poetry on rooftops, mornings walking her to work, nights cooking terrible meals and laughing anyway. It felt real. Not the glossy, Instagram-perfect version of love. The kind that lets you breathe. But just when I thought we'd found our rhythm, something changed. I noticed it first in her eyes, moments where she drifted, like her thoughts were somewhere she didn't want me to follow. She stopped bringing up Layla. She avoided certain questions about the school. One night, after dinner, I asked her directly. Is something wrong? She hesitated. I think someone's watching me, she said quietly. Watching you? Who? I don't know. I just feel it. Emails go unread. My office door has been found slightly open twice this week. Nothing stolen. Just moved. My blood went cold. Did you tell the principal? He thinks I'm being paranoid. And maybe I am. After everything with Kevin, I'm on edge. I took her hand. You're not paranoid. And you're not alone. We'll figure it out. But as I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, one thought haunted me. If someone wanted to silence Emma once, what's stopping them from trying again? Trust isn't broken all at once. It cracks. Quietly. Like a mirror you didn't know was fractured, until the light hits it just right. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Emma's words. I think someone's watching me. She hadn't said it with fear. She said it with exhaustion. Like a woman too tired to run, but still too aware to rest. I'd promised her she wasn't alone. But something in her eyes told me she wasn't convinced. The next morning, I took matters into my own hands. I made 2 calls. The first was to a private security firm I'd used years ago during a corporate extortion case. Discreet. Effective. Loyal. The second was to Lauren. She picked up on the first ring. "Did you change your mind about the assistant situation?" she asked, half joking. "No," I said. "But I might need your help." I told her about Emma's suspicions. The door left open. The odd emails. The feeling of being watched. To her credit, Lauren didn't dismiss it. "I'll run a background sweep on her building, the school, and recent online chatter," she said. "But Ethan, if something's really happening here, we may not like what we find." "I already don't," I muttered. Emma didn't know about the surveillance equipment I had installed outside her apartment the next day. Or the panic button the firm gave her, as a gift from the building management. It wasn't meant to spy on her. It was protection, plain and simple. But even as I doubled her security, I felt the shift between us. She wasn't distant, exactly. She still smiled, still kissed me goodnight. But there was a guardedness now. A quiet weight she carried like a backpack she wouldn't let anyone touch. And then it happened. 3 days later, I got a call from the security firm. "We picked up movement in the stairwell camera around 2 a.m., the lead tech, Marcus, told me. Man in a hoodie. Never entered her unit, but he lingered outside her door for over 4 minutes. Just stood there. My heart pounded. Face ID. Partial. Not enough for recognition. But there's something else." I waited. He dropped something. A photo. Slipped it under her door. Emma hadn't mentioned it. Not the man. Not the photo. So that night, I drove over. No call. No warning. She opened the door in a loose sweater and jeans. Her face brightened for a moment, until she saw my expression. "What happened?" she asked. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and said, "Why didn't you tell me about the photo?" Her breath caught. Just enough to confirm what I already knew. She turned away, walking toward the kitchen. "Because I didn't want you to see it." "Why?" I followed her. "Emma, someone stood outside your door. Watching. For 4 minutes. This isn't a coincidence." She opened a drawer and pulled out a crumpled envelope. Inside was a printed photo of her. And me. Sitting at a cafe last week, laughing. On the back was a message, written in sharp block letters. "He doesn't know what you did." I felt the chill run through me. But not from the threat. From the way she was avoiding my eyes. "What is this?" I asked. "What don't I know?" She stared at the photo like it was a bomb with no wires to cut. "I didn't kill anyone, if that's what you're wondering," she said softly. "Emma." She sank into a chair. "There's something I never told you. About why Kevin and I ended." I stayed quiet. Waiting. "He proposed 2 years ago," she said. "At first, it felt right. Safe. He was charming. Respected. My parents loved him. But he was different in private. Controlling. Dismissive. He'd ask questions about every dollar I spent, every call I made." Her voice lowered. "And one night, he got drunk. Accused me of cheating. I wasn't. He grabbed my arm. Left bruises. I walked away the next day. Told the school I needed a leave for family reasons. They let me go quietly. I felt my fists clench." She continued. "I never filed a formal report. I didn't want drama. He apologized. Sent flowers. Promised he'd change. But I didn't go back." She looked up at me. "I thought he was done. I thought he'd moved on. But then he got onto the board. And suddenly everything I did was under scrutiny. He started showing up at events. Smiling. Acting like we were still close. It scared me." I sat beside her, my thoughts racing. "You should have told me sooner." "I wanted to," she said. "But I was afraid you'd see me as a victim. Or worse, someone bringing baggage into your clean, perfect life." I reached for her hand. "You think I'm perfect?" "Emma, I've built walls so high, I forgot how to let people in. But with you, those walls don't make sense anymore. Her eyes filled. I didn't want to break anything. Especially not this. You didn't break anything, I said. He did. The next day, Lauren sent me a file. An audio recording. Kevin. In a private club, drunk and bragging. Recorded by one of her old contacts. She's gonna regret ever walking away, he slurred. The board loves me. She'll never work in this town again once I'm done with her. That was it. The match. The gasoline was already laid. I had my lawyers draft a cease and desist. I filed a restraining order. And then, I made one final move. 2 days later, Kevin Mallory was publicly removed from the school board. The leaked audio, conveniently discovered by a journalist at a local paper, sealed the deal. Emma's name was cleared. Fully. Not just legally. But in the eyes of her peers, her students, her community. She didn't throw a party. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she came to my place, dropped her bag on the floor, and wrapped her arms around me. I don't know how to say thank you anymore, she whispered. Don't, I said. Just stay. But peace never lingers when you've stirred dark waters. 1 week later, I received a package. No sender. No return address. Inside. A torn page from a yearbook. Me and Emma, junior year. And a note in the same block letters. You still don't know everything. I hadn't seen that photo in years. Junior year. Class trip to DC. I was standing in the back row, arms crossed, trying to look cooler than I felt. Emma was just 3 people away, smiling, carefree, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. I remembered that trip. The monuments. The bus rides. The late-night laughter in hotel hallways. I also remembered something else. Something I hadn't thought about in decades. A rumor. About a girl who didn't come down to breakfast one morning. About a boy who got quietly transferred to another school 3 weeks later. Back then, we didn't talk about those things. Back then, I didn't know that girl was Emma. Now I wasn't so sure. The note that came with the photo sat heavy in my palm. You still don't know everything. I wanted to tear it up. To dismiss it as more scare tactics from Kevin or some other ghost from Emma's past. But something about it felt different. More personal. I stared at the grainy photo again. A younger version of us, frozen in time. Before success. Before money. Before scars. I knew what I had to do. And I hated it. Do you remember the DC trip? I asked her that evening. We were on my rooftop, the city glowing beneath us, wine glasses barely touched. Emma blinked, caught off guard. Wow. Yeah. Barely. That was forever ago. Did something happen? I asked carefully. On that trip. She went still. Why are you asking me that now? I pulled the photo from my jacket and placed it gently on the table between us. Her eyes landed on it. Then the note. I saw it hit her like a punch to the chest. Emma. She stood suddenly, walking to the edge of the balcony. Her back to me. Shoulders tense. I hoped this would never come up, she said finally. Talk to me, I said, rising. Please. She turned slowly. There was a boy. You might remember him, Josh Miller. My stomach turned. Quiet kid, she continued. Liked photography. We had a few classes together. He sat next to me on the bus down. Wasn't creepy or anything. Just quiet. I nodded. I remember him. She took a breath. One night, I stayed behind in the hotel lobby to grab a soda. Everyone else had gone upstairs. He was there. Said he wanted to show me something on his camera. Her voice broke for a moment. I followed him out to the back stairwell. Thought it was innocent. It wasn't. I felt a fire light inside my chest. He didn't. No, she said quickly. Not all the way. I got away. I screamed. A teacher came. But they hushed it up. Told my parents it was a misunderstanding. Said I might have led him on. They moved him to a different school. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was 14, Ethan, she said softly. They made me feel like I had imagined the whole thing. I never told anyone. Never pressed charges. But I never forgot. Not for a second. I stepped toward her. She didn't move away. And now someone knows, I said quietly. Someone who wants to use it to hurt you. She nodded. I don't know who sent that photo. But it's not just about Kevin anymore. This is deeper. Someone's been watching me for a long time. The next morning, I sent the yearbook page and note to Lauren. She was quiet for longer than usual. This is personal, she finally said. Not corporate sabotage. Not legal pressure. Someone's digging into her life. Her trauma. This is targeted. Can you find out who sent it? I can try, she said. But you might not like the answer. Days passed. Emma went back to work, but I could tell she was keeping her head down. The kids gave her energy, but the staff looked at her differently now. Rumors, no doubt. Kevin had done his damage. And whoever was behind the yearbook note wasn't done yet. One evening, she showed up at my place pale and shaking. There was another envelope, she said, handing it to me. Inside was a printout of an old school incident report. One paragraph was circled in red ink. Student EB. Involved in after-hours hotel incident. Claims of inappropriate behavior unverified. No disciplinary action taken. I looked up at her. This is a copy of the file they made me sign. Back then, she whispered. I didn't know anyone still had it. It was a threat. A silent promise. We can still ruin you. That night, Lauren called. We have something, she said. Her team traced the delivery route of both envelopes to a courier service, cash payments, fake names, but the drop-off location had a camera. The footage showed a man wearing sunglasses and a hat. But as he pulled out his phone to confirm a code, they caught a partial reflection on the glass. Lauren sent me a zoomed-in image. It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't Josh Miller. It was a name I hadn't heard in years. Craig Delaney. Craig had been in our high school class. Loud, athletic, forgettable. Except for one thing. He was best friends with Josh Miller. And he'd hated me. I remember once, senior year, he cornered me in the locker room after I beat him out for a leadership position in student council. You think money makes you special, he'd said. You're just a scared rich kid hiding behind good grades and your daddy's wallet. I hadn't seen him since graduation. And now he was resurfacing. Why? I did my own digging. Craig had flunked out of college. Drifted between jobs. Eventually became a private contractor, security, freelance IT work, background checks for low-end law firms. And guess where he was currently employed? A third-party investigation company used by Kevin's real estate holding group. I stared at my screen, heart racing. He wasn't just watching Emma. He was hired to. Which meant Kevin hadn't backed off. He'd just gone underground. I'm scared, Emma said to me that night. Not of him. But of what this could become. I've worked so hard to rebuild my life, Ethan. And now it feels like every door I walk through leads right back to the past. You're not going backward, I told her. You're walking through fire. And coming out stronger. She reached for my hand. I don't want to keep secrets anymore, she said. Not from you. Not from myself. I'll stand with you. No matter what comes next. She smiled. But there was a sadness in it that wouldn't leave. Later that night, I stood alone in my office, staring at that photo again. 2 kids. 2 lives. 2 stories that were more intertwined than I'd ever known. This wasn't just about love anymore. It was about redemption. Justice. Closure. And maybe, for both of us, finally breaking free. Some stories don't begin with love. They begin with silence. The kind of silence that buries pain in polite smiles, nods, and the fear of being believed. But silence always runs out of room. Emma's had. And now mine had, too. Because to truly love someone, you have to be willing to face what broke them. Even if it threatens to break you, too. Lauren's team got me what I needed. An address for Craig Delaney. He was renting a small house on the outskirts of town, 2 hours out. Isolated. Private. No doorbell camera, no neighbors within earshot. I didn't tell Emma I was going. Didn't even tell Lauren I'd go alone. Maybe that was reckless. But this wasn't about lawyers or security anymore. This was personal. I parked on the side of the gravel road, heart pounding harder than I expected. I wasn't afraid of Craig. I was afraid of what I might learn. The front yard was littered with old tools, a broken satellite dish, and a rusting grill. A man in his 40s sat on the porch, legs up, beer in hand, watching me approach with disinterest, until recognition crept into his expression. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," he said, standing slowly. "Hello, Craig. Didn't think I'd ever see you in my driveway," he said with a mocking grin. "What, you lose your assistant's number?" "I know what you've been doing," I said calmly. "The surveillance. The threats. The photos." He didn't deny it. "Why?" I asked. "What could you possibly gain from tearing Emma down? After all these years?" He took a sip from his can. "You don't know, do you?" "Know what?" He laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. "You always thought you were the golden boy. Ethan Cross, untouchable. You don't remember that night at the hotel, do you? You don't remember what really happened." I stiffened. "I remember Emma was assaulted," I said firmly. "And the school covered it up." Craig took a step forward. "Josh didn't touch her," he said darkly. "But someone else did." I felt my skin go cold. "What are you talking about?" "You think I was just watching her because of Kevin," he said. "No. I watched her because she lied. She ruined his life. Got him expelled. Drove his mom into a breakdown. Do you even know what that did to him? He tried to force himself on her." I snapped. Craig shook his head. "No. That's what she said. But that night, Josh was with me. I dragged him out to the parking lot after he got drunk off minibar vodka. He never even made it upstairs." I stared at him. "She lied," Craig repeated. "Or if someone did something to her, it wasn't Josh. But she pinned it on him. And you think she's a victim?" I stepped back, my mind spinning. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you're gonna marry her," he sneered. "And I figured you'd want to know who she really is before you make that mistake." I left without another word. Drove the whole way back in silence. But inside, everything was screaming. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room, staring at the same photo again. That yearbook page. The two of us, teenagers, smiling, unknowing. Could Craig be telling the truth? Could Emma have lied? It didn't make sense. But trauma rarely does. Memory even less. And then I realized something. Something obvious. Emma never named her attacker. She never said Josh. I had filled in that blank. What if Craig was right, about the wrong person, but not about the truth? I called Emma the next morning and asked her to meet me. Not at my place. At the park near our old high school. Where it all began. She came. Dressed simply. No makeup. Eyes weary. "I thought you might not call," she said. "There's something I need to ask," I said quietly. She nodded. "I know." We sat on the old bench under the oak trees, where seniors used to sneak off during lunch. "Did you ever tell anyone the name of the boy that night?" I asked. She looked down at her hands. "No," she whispered. "I couldn't." "Why not?" "Because I didn't see his face." I froze. She continued, voice trembling. "It was dark. He grabbed me from behind. I thought it was Josh because he'd been following me that night. He'd said weird things earlier. But when the teacher came and the boy ran, I never saw his face. So when the school blamed Josh, I started. I let them, she admitted. I didn't fight it. Because I thought it was him. But now? I asked. Tears slipped from her eyes. Now? I'm not sure anymore. I leaned forward. Emma, Craig says Josh wasn't even in the building. That he had an alibi. She covered her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. Then it wasn't him. All these years. I believed I was safe because they expelled him. But if it wasn't him? I reached for her hand. You didn't lie, I said gently. You were a child who was hurt and believed what the adults told you. That's not guilt. That's survival. She sobbed quietly. I was so scared. I just wanted it to go away. I know, I said, holding her tightly. But now, it's time to stop running from it. In the weeks that followed, Emma filed a statement. Not an accusation. Not a charge. Just a truth. That she had been assaulted. That she didn't know by whom. That the school failed her. Her story went public, carefully, with Lauren's help. And the public believed her. She wasn't shamed. She was heard. And that changed everything. The school issued a formal apology. The board promised new training. Craig was fired quietly. No charges, but his access was revoked permanently. And Kevin. He never showed his face again. 2 months later, we sat at the same table where we had first reconnected. The private dinner. The 10 women. The absurd, expensive search for someone ideal. I looked at her now and smiled. You know, you weren't supposed to be there. She laughed. I know. Still don't know how Lauren talked me into it. I reached into my jacket pocket. Her eyes widened slightly. I didn't say anything. Just opened the small velvet box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring. No spectacle. No kneeling. Just truth. I'm not looking for perfect anymore, I said. I'm looking for real. For honest. For you. She stared at the ring for a long moment. Then at me. Only if you let me be imperfect, she said. I took her hand. Only if we promise to never run from the hard parts again. She nodded, smiling through tears. I do.